I found a second wedding ring in my husband's car, but when I confronted him, he told me I was losing my mind. My husband, Caleb, is a successful surgeon, and everyone thinks we have the perfect life. But for months, I felt like a ghost in my own home. Things would move, I'd smell a perfume I don't own in the hallway, and Caleb started coming home later and later, smelling like expensive cigars and sea salt. When I found that ring, a vintage emerald cut, tucked inside the lining of his trunk, I thought I had him. But Caleb didn't even flinch. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Sarah, that's your ring. You took it off to wash dishes and forgot. Are you feeling okay lately?" He was so convincing that for a moment, I actually doubted myself, but I knew the truth. My ring was on my finger. I decided to play his game. I installed a tiny, voice-activated recorder inside a decorative vase in his home office. That night, I pretended to go to bed early, but I stayed awake, listening through the app on my phone. At 2:00 a.m., I heard the office door open. Then I heard Caleb's voice, but it was different, softer, more terrified than I'd ever heard it. He said, "She's getting suspicious. If she finds out about the basement, we're both dead." Then a woman's voice replied, a voice that sounded exactly like mine. She said, "Then speed up the process. The house is already in my name now anyway." I felt the blood drain from my face. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being replaced by someone who was literally stealing my identity. The next day, while Caleb was at the hospital, I went to the basement. I had lived there for 3 years and never noticed the fake wall behind the wine cellar. When I pushed it open, I found a room that looked like a shrine to my life. Photos of me, my handwriting practiced hundreds of times on legal pads, and my own clothes hanging in a closet. But the most horrifying thing was a legal document on the desk, a death certificate with my name on it, dated for next Tuesday. The cause of death was listed as accidental overdose. They weren't just waiting for me to leave. They were counting down the days until they could kill me and have this other me step into my life without anyone noticing. I didn't call the police immediately. I knew they wouldn't believe a crazy wife over a respected surgeon. Instead, I waited for Tuesday. I swapped the vitamins Caleb had been giving me with the sedative he used for his patients. That night, I invited his other woman over while he was still at work, pretending I was him via text. When she walked in, looking exactly like a twin I never had, she was met with a taser and a pair of handcuffs. When Caleb walked through the door an hour later, expecting to find a corpse, he found me sitting at the kitchen table with his double tied to a chair and the police waiting in the shadows. He tried to run, but they tackled him before he could reach the door. It turns out, the woman was his first wife, who everyone thought had passed away years ago, and they had been running this scam for a decade. Now, they're both facing life in prison, and I own every single thing they tried to steal from me. Am I the villain for let her sit in that dark basement for hours before calling the cops? Or was it the perfect taste of her own medicine?